And we're live, folks.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another City Council meeting. And let's get going.
1 second. And we're live, folks.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another City Council
too many
meeting.
things open on the screen at once.
And,
good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach, held Tuesday, May 18th, 2021 at 7 p.m. We have a roll call. Councilmember Delury.
Present.
Sorry, too many things open on the screen at once.
Present.
Good evening and welcome to the regular
Tristan.
meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach,
Vice
held
President
Tuesday, May
McGinnis.
18th, 2021 at
Present.
7 p.m. President Bendo. We have a roll call.
Present.
Let the record indicate the presence of City Manager Donna Gaden and Deputy Corporation Counsel Richard Berrios. We'll now have a salute to the flag.
Councilman Delury, would you lead us, please?
Certainly. Thank you, President Bendo. Hands over heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. So why don't we start with the city manager's report?
Good evening, everyone. We're going to start the manager's report with M3 and O'Melveny update. So Maria, I see she's on. We need to, and Brian Griffith is on. And is Mo on?
I don't think so, Donna.
Okay, so you can go right ahead. And if you want to show your screen, because right now we only see your names.
I'm moving them up to the panel.
I got it now. Good evening, everyone.
Good
Hello.
evening.
Hi, I'm Maria DeConza from O'Melveny. Donna asked M3 and O'Melveny to provide a brief update since our engagement last month. We've largely completed the initial phase of our engagement, our legal and financial diligence, which will be subject to some adjustments once the budget is finally approved and the capital plan is finally approved as well. And we're starting to formulate the options available to the city and the pros and cons and risks and benefits of those options. So we will have a much broader report as we continue in this process. During our diligence, we've worked very closely with Donna and Ina to really understand the financials of the city. And we've also worked with the city's other internal resources. We're working with and drawing on the expertise of the city's other advisors, CMA and the city's outside counsel. The city is very lucky to have such expertise available to them and to have such experienced counsel. And we've really been impressed with what we've learned from all of them as well. As we mentioned at the outset, our goal is to pull all that expertise together along with our own to try to put together a comprehensive report for the comprehensive strategy for the city. And that's what we're working on. While our work is still ongoing, it's clear that the city cannot just borrow their way out of this. The city needs to be in a position to pay back any money that it borrows and to be able to service its debt on an annual basis while still paying for its operating expenses. The legacy liabilities coupled with the Haberman judgment and the operating expenses are just not something the city can borrow its way out of. There's no silver bullet here. The city needs to continue what it's been doing, what the council has been doing, what the city manager and the controller have been doing, the recent PBA collective bargaining agreement, interest arbitration awards, and the ongoing negotiations should have a positive impact on the city's finances. But it's important to continue to identify and work to reduce or eliminate the structural issues and the legacy liabilities that face the cities. So we don't have a final report today. Our work is still ongoing, and we really appreciate the cooperation that we've had so far, and we look forward to working to continue our process.
Donna, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we
Yes.
can.
Okay. Are there any questions from the council for either Brian or Maria?
Not at the moment.
I want to make sure that we stress that this didn't just happen within this administration. Some believe that this financial problems that we're having just happened now. So Maria, can you clarify that for people that are confused based on what we're saying and what others are saying?
Sure. It's really the exact opposite. The things that this administration have been doing that we understand have been going on with really understanding what money is coming in and what money is coming out. That really sounds very basic, but it is the most important thing. The negotiations that are going on, the interest arbitration reduced what was last year the largest payout. Donna, you can correct me on the numbers, was over $600,000. Under the new award, the interest arbitration on the collective bargaining agreement, that would be capped at $275,000. Those are for people, separation payments when people are retiring. The city can't sustain those kind of payments year after year without a corresponding increase in revenues. And so these structural issues are what create these liabilities. And of course, the Haberman judgment is not a new issue. It happened to, the court rendered its decision this year, but this has been an issue that's been going on for since 1989, my understanding. And so it's really addressing these issues today that this administration is working to do. And it is extremely important to do it today because it will only get worse.
And Maria and Donna, just to put maybe a finer point on that as well, is the work that the city has been doing over the last couple of years is actually really paying off in terms of figuring out how best to balance the budgets without having to borrow. So between the years of 2014 and 2018, the city was borrowing on average about $6 million to more or less balance the budget between, interfund transfers or bond issuances. And over the last 2 or 3 years, that number's come down significantly. In 2019, I think it was about $3 million. Last year, I think, or 2020, I think estimate was about $2 million. And I know this year we have maybe about $3 million plus or so under the current budget estimate that would need to be borrowed. But part of that is to, pay for part of the benefits.
It's for the payouts.
Right. And
for the payouts,
which were accelerated as part of this arbitration. But in the long term, that's going to pay off because that will, as Maria said, as we've capped these payments or you've capped these payments, that's going to pay off in the future. So we're going to have a little bit of pain in this current year, but the trend is obviously very encouraging. But we do need, as Maria said, to deal with, I think, the legacy liabilities as well. But you guys are trending in the right direction. So that's just my 2 cents as well.
Thank you. Well, if there's no questions, next up is Commissioner Brand from Recreation Department to give a beach update.
Good evening, everybody. Just real quickly, let everybody know that the beach business at the current time is booming. From our operations with the sale of beach passes that began this past weekend, business has been very brisk. The majority of the people are very happy, excited to use the beach this summer. And I think there's just an overall positive anticipation that they're going to get to use this beautiful thoroughfare of ours and remembering it the way it was before COVID. So beach pass sales are on. We're 7 days a week at the gazebo across from the ice arena. On the weekends, we're up at the trailer on Laurelton as well. So, don't waste time. We've spoken at length about the electronic beach passes throughout the winter. We're in the final testing stages of the electronic beach passes. We have a team of city employees that have been routinely on a daily basis testing, like we like to call it, beating up and working out whatever remaining kinks there are. And we should have a launch hopefully by the weekend or sometime over the weekend. Negotiations with the Long Island Railroad have been ongoing, and they're ramping up for a July 4th launch for their getaway package for people to come and frequent our shores as well. It's not just our department. If you take a look or take a walk on the boardwalk, you'll see Tommy Canner and the beach maintenance guys are all over the beach in terms of beach preparations with the appropriate amenities as well. Paul Gillespie, Chief Gillespie, and the lifeguards are out. They're getting their operations all squared away. We're with one another on a routine basis. It's red line time now, and there's an excitement. The beach league volleyball will be back. Summer concerts will be back. On a smaller schedule. And as we inch closer and closer to the lower threshold numbers, we're going to begin exploring which additional summer events we can that we can take part with. A number of them do require a substantial amount of lead time, and with the guidance that we have now, some of them would be knocked out of the box just because we wouldn't be able to pull them off in their regular time space. But the stuff that we can extend into the later parts of the summer, we're certainly looking to do that. On the short term, what we have coming up is the 10-mile race, the city manager's Race to Remember. That'll take place on Sunday morning, May 30th. And recently we met with members of the Joint Veterans Associations and came to the agreement that in lieu of a parade, they will be hosting an event on the mall across from the VFW on Grand Boulevard, similar to what we did last year. The event takes place at 1 p.m. on Memorial Day. We'd love to have as many people come down as would like to take part in that. And if they want to join us on the city's live stream virtually, that would be available to them as well. Like I say, day by day, the information gets better and better. I think it's going to be a busy summer. People seem genuinely excited about getting back to normal, and we're going to do everything we can to help that along. That's it. All I got.
Commissioner, this is Mike Delory. I just have one or two questions for you. Could you just tell us what the hours of beach pass sales are at the gazebo and the hours for Laurelton Boulevard?
Yes, sir. During the week at the gazebo, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. On the weekends, it's both locations, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Thank you, Commissioner.
My pleasure.
Commissioner, this is Liz Treston. I just want to thank you for looking into the extending of pool hours for the community. I know that your staff has been working very hard on that, and I would like the residents to know that some more information will be following up with you in the next week.
Yep. I mean, I made you guys aware of it, but the general public should know as well. We did get additional guidance just today that pertains to both the pool and the gym, with some loosening of restrictions that will now pour through. They go into effect tomorrow, the 19th, so we can hopefully expand our offerings at the recreation campus as well. That was exciting news, and news that we've been waiting quite a bit for. So, again, like everything else, little by little as we get it, we're going to get it out to people.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Liz. And you've been patient. We're trying.
All right. If there's no other questions, the next up is Commissioner Walsh and Commissioner Kimmons to talk about code enforcement.
Hi, can you guys see me?
Yes.
Just making sure I'm up. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Evening. So we have with the lifting of the COVID restrictions and stuff like that, that has happened. We're expecting a vibrant season to be upcoming. We're hiring 31 or 32 summer specials that are going to be trained this weekend. So we're looking forward to that and to getting them deployed on the Ocean Beach Park. With regard to the Ocean Beach Park, we will be looking to make sure that the rules are all followed up there. We're actually going to be taking a look at all of the vendors up on the boardwalk, making sure that they are in compliance. If we see things that are out of compliance, we will be working, we'll be going over to the vendors, talk to them, see if we can gain compliance. If not, we'll take whatever appropriate action there is necessary to make sure that everybody's safe and all the city rules are followed. Scott, you have anything you want to add?
We're just going to be working on, with you and Corporation Council, the flag situation, which was brought to light. Flags are, under Chapter 3 of the Long Beach Code of Ordinances, which was written in 1989. It's not the most recent. And we're looking at the exemptions and the what's prohibited, and working with the Corporation Council to see what we need to do to bring everything into compliance.
Anything else you'd like to hear about, Ms. Caden, or is that
was it?
Okay.
Unless you have something that you wanted to add.
Nope, I'm all good. I just
Okay.
was, looking forward to the summer season and to the future. I think we're going to have a very bright future.
And then the last is John McNally, COVID update.
Evening all, and I believe I will be able to keep it on a generally positive note as well. I'm doing the COVID update, which has been trending in the right direction. We are in a much better place than we were, obviously, a month or two or even 3 ago. So for the week ending yesterday, the 17th, there were, 20 new confirmed positive cases or positive test results, which equates to a daily increase 7-day average of 2.86 positive cases a day, or otherwise spoken 0.09 per 1,000 residents a day. So we are back where we were last summer. We're ahead of where we were at this time last year. On a statewide level, the positivity rate is 1.07%. There's obviously still a significantly larger number of tests happening now than there was last spring, just due to availability. Long Island's positivity rate is 0.94%. So we are actually ahead of the state curve for the first time in a long time, on Long Island. Major announcements or major changes that go into effect as of tomorrow. Most capacity restrictions are lifted in the tri-state area. So restaurants, museums, retail, office buildings, so on and so forth, they have dropped the capacity restrictions effective tomorrow. What they are then falling back to are really social distancing rules. So, restaurants, tables still need to be 6 feet apart. That's the same thing on our beach. So people from different groups on the beach, we don't have a capacity restriction on the beach moving into Memorial Day, but if you're not from the same group, you need to be 6 feet apart from each other. And quite frankly, that's just good beach etiquette anyway. So, that's a major change from last year, and we're looking forward to it. The outdoor food and beverage curfew was lifted today. Of course, Long Beach, our outdoor curfew is still, someone would have to tell me it's either 10 or 11, but bars remain closed at 4. Indoor food and beverage curfews are lifted May 31st. Outdoor gathering limits have already been increased to 500. Indoor gathering limits to 250. Indoor residential gathering limits were increased to 50. And for those that commute, 24-hour subway service will be back as of tomorrow. So everything is trending in the right direction. There's a little bit of ambiguity in terms of mask mandate. Obviously, the CDC guidelines go in effect as of tomorrow. How each individual business will deal with proving who has been vaccinated and who has not been vaccinated is, the governor said today, something of an honor system. but we would encourage our businesses to the degree practical. There is a New York State app that can do it. There are cards, but we know this is a challenge. So we'd ask everybody to be patient with all of our local businesses. Let them work through this because we don't really have a clear definition of how this is all supposed to take place as of yet. So if a particular business is still mandating masks, ride with it. We've been riding with it for, over a year now. Let's continue to have patience and caring for each other and compassion for each other and err on the side of caution. Any questions?
There's no questions. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. All right, Dave, why don't we move on to the first public hearing?
Okay, our first public hearing tonight is for a local law amending Subpart C of related acts relating to the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding a local law to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law Section 3C.
That will be Ina, Ray, Flammer, and Rich.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We cannot see you.
One
Go.
second.
It's Frazier.
No, Zoom should be moving you up to the panel. Give it a
Thank
second.
you.
You can go ahead and turn your camera on.
Okay, thank you. Dave, do you mind putting the slides on for the override of tax levy limits? And go to the second one. Thank you. So, override of tax levy limit, we obviously talked about it before, the fact that we're in order to balance this fiscal year 2022 budget and make it structurally viable, we need to pierce the tax cap or reduce services drastically. So I'm just going to briefly go through the process of why and how and what the tax rates are, and hopefully Ray's on a call and he'll be able to add to that from a tax assessor point of view perspective. So really the process starts with the total tax levy of last year, which was $46,619,787. And then the state, New York State, issues what they call tax-based gross factors, and for each particular municipality, and also allowable levy gross factor. So tax-based gross factor is based on the gross in the overall tax levy, and that's new constructions, improvements. It's communicated to the state by our tax assessor office. This year, that was 0.064%. Then allowable levy gross factor is really what everybody is referring to as a tax cap. So it's lesser of rate of inflation or 2% in every given year. This year, the rate of inflation was less than 2%, 1.23%. It varies based on the fiscal year of a municipality. So for us, being June 30th year end, it's 1.23%. Basically, the formula is more complicated than just one multiplied by the other. But for the simplicity's sake, let's say that it is. And the overall increase under this cap would allow the city to raise additional $876,213 from the property taxes. So when that comes in a year where we had to just the variance between last year and this year, well, when I'm saying last year, I mean fiscal 2021. I'm rushing already. I'm in 2022. So between 2022 and 2021, in just the payment of FICA because of deferrals due to COVID, we're talking about $2 million just in one line item. So it's it becomes very clear that it would be very hard for a municipality like ours that relies heavily on revenues that are exchange type revenues, and that were very, very hardly hit by COVID, to stay within this $876,000. So originally in a proposed budget, the total budgetary gap that we had to breach was $3.9 million. And then since the budget was proposed and posted on the website, we had learned that the beach capacity would be increased from what was originally assumed in a proposed budget. So higher capacity means more beach revenue. More beach revenue means less need of the tax levy size, and therefore the overall increase as per proposed fiscal year 2022 budget amended by ROTM is $2.3 million. So the total levy is provided by my office to the Office of the Tax Assessor, and that office distributes and allocates it between the homestead and non-homestead. And if Ray's on a call, maybe he can contribute to it. You there?
I'm here.
Thank you. So why don't you take over and tell us a little bit of what happens on your end?
Okay, my responsibility is pretty much the tax-based growth factor, which is determined by the New York State Department of Tax and Finance based on the assessment changes from one year to the other, and it's based on the quantity changes, which are the new construction, alterations, and renovations, where I increase the assessed value, and also where wholly exempt properties go to taxable. I think last year we had 2 houses that became taxable. And from there, the state comes up with a growth factor. This year is 0.064%. For comparative purposes, the Long Beach School District had a 0.35% this year. Nassau County has 0.67% this year. You know, that was during the year of COVID, where construction was halted for a little bit. And anything else, Ina, I should add?
No, I think stay on the line. We might have questions, so thank you.
You're welcome.
So overall residential tax increase for fiscal year 2022 from the scenario B on the slide, which is proposed budget as amended by RADA, is the difference between fiscal year 2021 tax rate and fiscal year 2022 tax rate, calculated as a percentage of the assessed volume. So that's 4.87%, and below I have a little bit of a calculation how that's 4.87 is calculated. So basically this year tax rate as a percentage of the assessed value is 21.038%. Last year it was 20.061%, so the variance is 0.976%. 9.76% as a percentage of the last year tax rate is 4.87%. So therefore you will hear that the taxes went up by 4.87%. And when you compare levy to levy, the year that the percentages would be different, but this is the more stable factor by which to express it. And that's about it.
Okay, thanks, Ina. Do we have any questions from any of the council members? All right, not hearing anything. So why don't, Dave, why don't we move on to the public? And I see Roy just popped up, so I'm
Roy.
assuming that means he's first.
John, you knew this was coming.
Of course.
Of course. Listen, I don't understand. We had a budgetary gap of, in the beginning, 3.9 million. And then we had, with the errata sheet, that budgetary gap went down to 2.3. Is that correct?
Well, we don't have a budgetary gap as long as the tax levy is overwritten, but yes.
So, but all we got was an additional 696,000 in income. We also spent we used that money to reduce. So how could it have gone down, 1.6 million when all we got was an additional 696? I mean, I know there's some magic here.
You're not accounting what's already included in account with the allowable increase of 876.
Okay, all right. So that's the 800 plus the 600. That's what you mean. Oh,
yes.
Okay. So, and what was what did the commercial go up?
Good question. Give me a second.
That'd be 10.71%.
Great.
How much?
Check it out.
10.71%.
Okay. All right. I just have to comment. I really appreciate what you prepare, but I wish we could get this ahead of time so we could fashion questions. And we could understand this a little better. I've asked that, and if there's any way that we can do this, because I'm trying to understand it, I'm trying to look at the different things, and I guess, to be honest, 180 seconds is not enough time to ask questions on a budget with hundreds and hundreds of items. And, I understand Donna presented a budget, but somehow we did not cut 1 penny. We were not able to find 1 penny to cut. Matter of fact, we added another 85,000 in the budget. And I just think if we had more time and if we could examine it closer, we could find little cuts. I know I could find dozens of cuts myself. And, but we're limited. You understand how limited we are. And nobody seems, you're talking about $105 million budget that nobody found 1 penny to cut after Donna presented it. Now, Donna probably presented as tight as she could. I don't know that. I don't know because, like I say, I'm limited to the 180 seconds. And we only had 2 hearings. So that's a total of 6 minutes to ask about $105 million budget. And I don't think it's really fair to us because there are so many questions on this.
Okay, Roy, this is Donna.
Yes,
the way
Donna.
we prepare our budget is that we hire professional staff to run departments, and they tell us what they need, and they tell us, and Ina and I say it has to be to the bare bones of what they need to make sure their departments are run properly. And then we create the budget based on that. And we might find $100 here, $100 there. But when the department heads are held accountable to make sure that they provide the services to the community and we do everything we can for the community, that is the numbers they came up with. And so we try not to second guess the professionals on how to run their department and what they need to run their department. And that's been one of the complaints that they've had many times, is that they could do a better job in some of the things if they just had a little bit more money, or that they could move money from one line item to the other. So when we present a budget, Ina and I and the department's heads have scrubbed that budget as much as we possibly can without cutting any type of service, but to give good service at the cheapest cost that we can.
Okay, Donna, I guarantee you I could find at least a nickel in there. But what I'm saying is you will not find a department head that ever says, oh, I don't need more money. You won't. You know,
Right. So maybe
their job is to be a department head and to give as much service as they can. And the more money they have, the more
at a
service.
reasonable cost. At a reasonable cost. I'm not saying they're going to ever come to us and give us they will come to us and give us the pie in the sky. And if you ask every department head, they will tell you that they did not get what they asked for. And we look at 5-year trends. And so when we look at a trend, you have to make sure that when you're looking for that nickel, you're not cutting that nickel where in the last 5 years it said in absolute to do this, this is what we need. They're not asking for pie in the sky. If we were getting pie in the sky, we would have a whole lot new cars. We would have a whole lot new things that the city absolutely needs.
We went up $10 million, Donna. We are getting new things, you know. But anyway, I'm sure you did a great job. And
Roy, what I'm saying is we need a lot of new things. We have to, when you run a city, you have to do a capital plan, even with vehicles, where you are getting so many vehicles every year that you just don't stop buying things. And then when they fall apart, they come and you have to spend a lot of money. We do have things that we do have to replace. But thank you for the compliment. Yes, we work very hard on this budget.
Okay. Roy, that is your time.
I know.
All right. Thanks, Roy. And Ina, just correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the reason the budget went up this year is because we are getting that CARES Act money, which we are then just turning around and using to pay off the money we borrowed to get us through the COVID. So that was a reason the budget went up some. We're going to have a pass through, right?
yes.
Okay. Just want to confirm that was because that was a lot of money that, but it's coming in and going right back out the door to pay off the debt.
Yes.
So, so that wouldn't obviously be reflected in next year's budget. So next year's budget will probably actually go down. Well,
yes.
maybe. But
yes.
Okay. All right. Looks like Mr. Depper's back.
Yes. William Depper.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I just have something to address to, is it Commissioner Brand with the beach? And I heard Ina talking about the beach passes. The beach pass trail is directly across the street from me. And I've been telling people all day, the sign is very deceiving here because it doesn't say the hours of operation at this location.
Sorry, William, this is on the agenda item right now.
Yeah, right now we're talking about
okay.
Can you save that for good and welfare?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
We're still in a public hearing, right, John?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But I could have nitpicked too and found some cuts. So I would have given a little time to Mr. Lester to ask the questions.
Well, I mean, I'll just say, to Donna's point, we have professional staff and that knows exactly how their departments run. That's the obvious. But other things is, this isn't the only place where people can ask questions. They can email the city manager or Ina, and people do email lots of questions in and get them answered. I mean, unless you feel the absolute need that you have to ask something in public to say, look, I'm asking, look at me. That's fine. You can do that, but then you have to limit yourself to 3 minutes. But you could ask all the questions you want, via email and things, or calling into City Hall or whatever. So this is not the only opportunity to provide commentary.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, Dave. Who's next?
Kevin Heller.
Okay. Welcome back.
Wait a minute. There we go. Try it now.
There you go.
There you go.
Am I unmuted? Oh,
Yes,
thank
you are.
Yep, you're all set.
I apologize. I got lost in the numbers a little bit, Ina. Just a what if question. What if the council voted against piercing the tax cap limit? What could we raise the property tax levy by? What would be that figure?
That is actually, Mr. Haller, I think it's more of a legal question than a finance question. If the city council knows what the budget is, they had an opportunity, just like the rest of the city and the residents. The budget was online since April 20th, so any kind of research and questions that my office had we addressed. So from the legal standpoint, I don't think that I can answer it any further because again, it's a law, right? So I'm probably going to defer to Reach, but if you have any more questions for me, I'll be happy to address them.
I don't think it was a legal question. I think I just missed the number. I think you said it. I think it was 800,000 or
Right. I think Mr. Haller was your question.
What's going to happen? You asked what's going to happen if they're not going to vote on it.
But there's a number. I think you said the number.
Yeah, Ina, I think what he's asking is if we stayed at the tax cap, what would be the tax increase? You and I discussed this. I think it was about 1.9%, I believe. I'm going from memory when you and I discussed it.
You're absolutely right.
Okay, so if you voted against it, you'd have to go to that figure, and you'd have a choice to make between service cuts or other cuts. And I just wondered, do you know, and if you've done the analysis, if you just simply froze the planned hires and exempt pay raises that you discussed in the last budget hearing, how much would that save? Do you have that number handy?
Which exempt pay raises are you speaking of?
In the last budget hearing, it was brought up a few times. There were some new positions budgeted for and a number of exempt raises.
Okay.
That would not allow, I'm sorry, Donna, you can go ahead.
I was going to say, we had the new positions was the deputy city manager, the HR director, the procurement director. Those was three. There were
IT director
and the IT director, and those were considered necessary positions. And there weren't, I don't recall any pay raises. It was a difference on line items. Like for mine, for example, last budget cycle, it was 170,000. This budget cycle is 190 because I received 190 during this fiscal year. So that's not a pay raise.
I'm just suggesting that it's a big tax increase, and I wonder if, sometimes when things are tight, households have to tighten their belts, and every penny makes a difference. So I guess, I don't expect you to vote against piercing the tax cap. I just wonder aloud if we really pursued every avenue of savings.
Right. What I would say is, as I said before, we scrubbed this budget. We tried to make it as tight as possible. But if you don't pierce the tax cap, then you would be looking at reducing services and layoffs. Because remember, our biggest expense is employees.
Okay.
And just year to year, Mr. Haller, on page GF 28 of the budget, in account A9030588030 for the Social Security, this fiscal year 2022 proposed budget for that is $3.6 million. The adopted budget in 2021 was $1.6 million. We're talking about $2 million increase just for the Social Security. And that's more than twice what the tax levy limit allows you.
Ina, could you explain that? Because I think people are misunderstanding that it's jumped up only because of this upcoming budget year, but it was a deferral because of COVID that now you're paying it in the 21-22 year. Is that
Yeah.
right? Okay.
So basically in 2021, federal government allowed us to take sort of like a tax break and defer the employer portion of taxes through the end of last calendar year, December 31st, 2020. Whatever was deferred, though, is not forgiven to us. We have to pay back. So 50% of it is due and payable in fiscal year 2022, another 50% in the following year, fiscal 2023. So if you look at the budget document, you will see that the actual Social Security expense in 18 was $2.6 million. In 19 was about $2.6 million. In 2020 was about $2.5 million. Then it went down to $1.8 million in fiscal 2021. And now we have to not only pay what we paid in prior fiscal years, right, which was about $2.6 million historically, but also pay half of the taxes that we didn't pay in fiscal 2021. So, and part of 2020. So that bill becomes due, and that's something that we have to deal with. And just I'm using that to put this number in perspective, where you see that just the increase in one line item is twice what the cap would allow us.
Can you remind us of how much benefits cost went up year over year as well?
Benefit costs year over year. I will just say that pension plans went by $1 million. So went from approximately $7 million in total cost to the city in 2021. We are projecting, based on the estimated bills from the New York State pension systems, $8 million in expenses. So that's a tremendous increase. And in terms of the health insurance, we don't have any good indicators from the health systems. They don't want to commit really ahead of the time. So we know that we are locked into the rates through December 31st because they run on a calendar year. And we used 5% increase for this budget from January 1st through June 30th. Based on whatever the increases were in prior years and what we sort of the crystal ball told us.
Are you saying if we make absolutely no changes, our costs are going up by millions of dollars every year anyway?
If we make absolutely no changes, yes, our costs go up because of the
commitments we have.
Yes, because of.
And so that means our managers are saving money every day by managing their budgets and trying to keep their costs trying to hold water on their budgets is actually saving money.
I truly think so. Also, in addition to that, I want to say that we implemented maybe already for half a year or so, essential spending committee. So we base our budget on the actual spending, right? We look at what historical spending was. So if for my department, let's say I have a line item where I spent $9,000, I'd have to explain to my manager why I want it to be $12,000, right? So when you control those expenses the way that we control them through the essential spending committee, where every single purchase order and invoice gets reviewed by the committee of 5, the base from which you estimate your budget becomes much more, I think, reliable.
Okay. Well,
That makes sense.
yeah, I think, I hope Mr. Fraser wasn't running the clock when Mr. Delory and Ms. McGinnis were asking questions,
Well, the
but
clock was stopped.
thank you. But I think in the interest of time, if I have remaining questions, I'll take Mr. Bendo's advice and ask them offline. But I do think this sparked a worthwhile conversation, and I thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. And just, I guess, an interesting data point to put it in simple terms, because Ina's talking to us from a comptroller's point of view. Everybody should keep in mind, this is an interesting data point. About 2/3 of the city budget is salary and benefits, and then about 15% is the debt service. So 84% of the budget is going to stuff the city, in effect, doesn't have much control over. In other words, the pension costs and the medical costs come from the state. So as Ina pointed out, the state told us, well, it's $1 million more in the pension system this year. We have no say in that. So the reality is we have contractual obligations with the employees covered under collective bargaining agreements that give them contractual pay raises in a given year. Something the contract says they get whatever. If it's 2%, they get 2% raises. That's not something we just say you're not getting it. If I recall last year, Donna, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the exempts actually take a pay cut last year of 5%?
They did take a pay cut last year. I don't recall
cut.
the percentage, but some of them took more than that.
Okay, so the exempts took a pay cut. Now, I know people do like to pick on the exempts, but remember, the exempts are only about 10 people, 10 or 12 people. They're a very small piece of the budget. So even if they don't get pay raises in a $93 million budget, you're talking pocket change. So it's all about perspective here. What we're really talking about, if people are really talking about wanting to slash a budget, you're talking about cutting heads, because that's where the budget is. So that's what you need to think about when you're coming up and talking about cutting things. The only thing to really cut is heads, and that means you're going to lose services, and you're going to wait longer for things, and then the residents have to decide on if that's a trade-off they're willing to take to save a few bucks. Because keep in mind, a 4%, we're only talking a couple of $100 a household over the course of the year. Remember that 2/3 of your taxes are your school taxes. The remainder is split between the city and the county. So we're a small piece of your tax bill. So again, just keep all that in perspective. That doesn't mean this isn't important and you shouldn't ask questions, but I just want everybody to have that perspective so they're asking the right questions and putting things in proper perspective. So I rattled on long enough. I guess is Mr. Griffith next there?
Yes, Brian Griffith.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a quick comment, I think, on some of these issues, and I think Ina already stole some of my thunder, but I did want to say, based on our preliminary analysis, the actual true operating expenses of the city have actually come down over the past 5 years, as belts have been tightened and folks have done a pretty good job of managing, I think, the ongoing expense. Where we're seeing, some pretty material increases are in the debt and the legacy expenditures. So, more around, the principal amortization on the bonds, as well as the interest payment on those bonds that have been raised over the past, call it 10 years, to fund some of these deficiencies. That's kind of coming home to roost, and it's causing the expenses, or the dollars going out the door, to go up at a higher rate than the operating expenses are coming down. Same thing is true on the OPEB and the pension, as I think Ina already had mentioned. But those are contractual, so those are things that will have to be dealt with, as part of a bigger process. If there are opportunities to reduce it, I think that's what we're going to be looking at. I just want to make it clear, it's not total operating expenses; it's total expenses, total dollars going out the door, and a lot of that does have to do with the legacy portion, the debt and other kind of contractual obligations. That's my only point. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the point. I mean, in effect, we're paying for money that was borrowed quite a ways back, so it's catching up to us now. So and that's why we need to right the ship. So thanks. I guess Ms. Donovan's next, since I just saw her picture pop
Yes,
up.
Robin Donovan.
Okay.
Okay. Hello, John. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. My question is, how often can you override the tax cap levy in New York State?
Well, it's only done once a year. So, when budgets are being approved. So it's just it's a once a year item.
So in other words, you could do it next year if you needed to?
Yes. It's kind of the clock gets reset every year when the new budgets are developed. So, for example, last year we stayed at the tax cap, so we didn't have to pierce it.
Mm-hmm.
This year we weren't able to do that, so we are going to pierce it. Next year we may be back at the tax cap again. We don't know yet. We'll have to see what next year brings.
Okay. I heard we can email Donna Gaden with questions between the board meetings, but the beauty of these meetings is that the public has the opportunity to hear the questions and answers, and I think that's really valuable, and I thank you for having a public forum. Thank you.
Yeah, it is valuable. I agree entirely. That's why I don't want to jump the gun here, but I think the first meeting in June, Donna, don't yell at me if I'm being wrong, that we're going to try to go back to live meetings.
Yay.
So everybody, because what also happens is, after the meeting's over, people all stay around and ask more questions and stuff like that. So we're finally going to get back to face, which is that'll be good.
Okay, thank you.
And also remember, a lot of the questions are put online too. So, all right. Well, thank you. All right. Who's next, Dave?
Next is James Hodge.
All right. Welcome, James.
Good evening. Quick question. Just trying to see if it's in this place. What I asked, where would the $100,000 from Stop and Shop be on the budget? What line would that be under the urban development grant? Where would that be?
I see Ina grabbing the budget and flipping quick, so she'll get you an she's going to get you an answer here in a second. I'm just stalling while she's flipping pages.
It's 300 pages long. Let me find it. So, okay, I'll try. Okay. So, urban development is really a grant that's accounted for, the revenue is accounted for in a grant fund of the county of the city, and it's not a part of what's under discussion right now. However, we utilize this grant to pay for and reimburse ourselves for the city expenses. And this year we had budgeted about $74,000 in the economic development budget to be charged back to the urban development grant.
Okay, so my question is that with the city understanding that the people are still traumatized and feel the effects of the gentrifying and gentrification that happened, that brings the money in where all of the families was displaced. A lot of family members still live here and still feel those effects. And that money and that whole 99-year deal was said that money was going to go back into the immediate community. So is this administration now taking the money, directing it other places, like some other administrations, against the what it was contracted to do?
No. We'll take a look at that, James.
Okay.
I will pull the contract and we'll take a look at that and do an analysis of where the money is going, the money that's coming in and how it's spent, and then we will come back to the public and let them know.
Okay, it's if we can, because a lot of times this money is not reported where it's going, and I know
take care of it, James. We will take care of that. We will report where it's going and what it's used for.
And
we don't have a problem with that. We're very transparent.
No, I know, and I just want to make sure that again it was supposed to go directly into the community that was affected by the gentrification that happened when Warbounds was built, that is now Stop and Shop. Thank you.
And I had to unmute my phone. Thanks, James. Who's next, Dave?
No more hands raised.
No more hands. All right, let's close that hearing and let's move on to the next one.
Okay, our second public hearing is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding water and water distribution.
And I'm going to guess that's Mr. Fabrizio. And maybe Ina?
This is actually me again.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Dave, do you mind? Yes, and put to the next slide, please. So here, this one slide shows really the historic progression of the water rates and changes in water rates. And it goes back to 2010, and it shows that from 2010 to 2012, the rates increased on average 16%. Then from 2012 to 2019, rates had increased. Well, not the 2019 ordinance had increased 2012 rates that were in effect at that point, increased by 13% for the usage up to 12,000 gallons, and then 20% for all the other categories. And then what we're proposing today is 4% increase across all the usage categories. And yeah, that's comparative data. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions from the council members? All right, hearing none. Dave from the public.
1 second. Roy Lester.
Okay.
Go ahead, Roy.
Hello again. I'm trying to follow this, and what I've asked for before is when you do the changes to the charter, if you can put in what it is being changed from. Okay? Because it really helps. And I look at this, so I went back to the charter because that's basically what you tell us to do, John. And I look at the charter, and I believe the charter that you have online is an old one and it's not updated. So you really can't tell things. But the one real question I have is the firematic supply. It's a quarterly charge of $114.91 up to 2 inches. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct, Roy. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. And in the charter, it has a monthly charge of $97.50. So we decreased the firematic cost by 100%. Decreasing the cost?
No, the fire. Well, I could tell you what I have because I wrote down the old charges and the new. The firematic up to 2 inches. The old charge was $97.50.
Look right above that, John. What does it say right above it?
Well, I'm looking at the resolution. I don't have the charter open in front of me. I'm looking what so the amount in the resolution is $114.91. The amount in the charter was $97.50.
But that was a monthly charge, John. Look at the charter.
Okay, like I said, I don't have that open in front of me at the moment. So
okay. So I mean, that's
Roy. Again, just to go back to the first part of your question,
yes.
I think that we actually listened to what you asked. And this this little slide presents exactly the information that you're looking for. If you're gonna look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 column from the left, it says rates as of 7/1/2019. So that's the rates that you were asking about.
Ina, yes, the chart tells me. I'm asking in the resolution because I didn't see the chart till just now. And so when I read a resolution, I study these things before the meetings. And then I have to go back to the charter. And it would just be a lot easier for me, for the other people that are interested, if you do a resolution, just say what the old charge was.
Fair enough. We'll
Okay.
do the
Okay.
All right.
And just like I opened the charter, for the Firematic, it says the charges shall be billed quarterly in advance.
But it does say the monthly charge.
I see what you're looking at.
Page 802.
Yeah, no. I see what you're looking at. They probably never changed that that's probably been like that for 100 years. But yes, I see what you're saying now.
Right.
The text of the charter says quarterly, but that little table they have in the charter says monthly. So that's got to be fixed. You're right. You are right.
So it is, the quarterly charge was really $97.50. It was not a monthly charge, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
And
But that's a good catch.
One thing, Mr. Lester, which version are you looking at of the city charter? Did you click through like the E-code or did you click on the PDF?
I checked, went on the econ because the PDF is not indexed.
Okay. All right. I just want to know which one has that language, because the one on the PDF has the quarterly charge in the table, and I guess the one you're referring to doesn't. So thank you for spotting that.
Yeah, Rich,
All right.
I'm looking at the E-code version too. It does say monthly in the table.
Okay.
And, John and Rich, and to Mr. Lester's point, there's many other areas in the charter that need revisions as well.
You're
Correct.
telling me, Mike?
Yes, no, I'm
telling me, Mike?
But yes, it's being worked on. But as you could imagine, there is decades of changes that probably need to be updated. Would you happen to agree with that, Mr. Lester?
Mike, you know how much time I spent on that.
Thank you. I do.
During vacation time, mind you.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Roy.
You're welcome.
All right. Who's next, Dave?
There are no other hands raised.
Okay. So let's close that hearing. And I hope Rich or somebody took a note about the E-code version there, that we got to update that one table.
I did. Thank you very much.
Okay. So, all right, we close that public hearing and let's move on to the agenda.
Okay, item 1 is a local law amending Subpart C of related acts relating to the charter of the city of Long Beach regarding a local law to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law, Section 3C. A hearing's been held on this item already. Item 2 is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the city of Long Beach regarding water and water distribution. A hearing's been held on this item already. Item 3 is a resolution authorizing the adoption of the capital improvement program for 5 years from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2026 inclusive. I believe we have a motion to substitute.
Oh, yes. Yeah, there's an updated, has it been posted on the website?
It should have been. It should have been posted on the website.
Okay. So yes, there is.
I definitely, to make sure, I posted it on the agenda page. There is the updated version is right on the agenda page, folks.
Yeah, and this is actually a good news story. A little more pencil sharpening. We're actually saving more money. So there's an updated version that's on the website. So I'll make a motion to replace the capital plan and tables with the version that is currently posted on the city website.
I'll second that one.
Voting, Councilmember Delury.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm assuming you're going to explain what changed, Joe, so people know.
Absolutely, yes. I'm trying to use my camera, but it doesn't seem to be working. So,
one second.
We're gonna post the present.
Yep, I'm gonna put it up right now. Hold on 1 second. Your camera should be active now.
Hello. How you doing? Okay, yes. Thank you, everyone. Yes, I do have some good news. Based on comments that we received at the May 6th public hearing, we made some changes and I prepared an update that you have before you. I prepared 4 short slides. Well, actually, one was not too short, but I'm going to go through them real quickly, which will explain the changes that we made. Yeah, this is the update for the general fund. We basically reduced the general fund by $400,000, so it went from 5.2 million to 4.8 million, which basically reduced the overall capital budget from 10.1 million to 9.7 million. The next slide is going to give a much more detailed analysis of what we actually changed. The first item on the list is the Park Place water treatment plant covering of the separation tanks, which is in the water fund. In this case, we added $500,000. The city received a grant from Senator Kaminsky in the amount of $500,000. This is presented in the 2022 non-city funding column of the capital budget spreadsheet. This is extremely beneficial to the city. The bids are due for this project on June 3rd, 2021. Approximately $800,000 was authorized and borrowed. So instead of paying debt service on $800,000, we can pay $500,000 from the grant towards the debt service. And essentially we will only be borrowing $300,000 for the project in lieu of $800,000. So overall, it's just great that we're getting this money. So I want to thank Senator Kaminsky. The second item is a PVC pool liner at the Recreation Center. We added $100,000. The funding for this item was added to facilitate the award of the project to the low bidder, which is Renesas Contracting. We're intending to award at the June 1st, 2021 regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council. This company, Renesas, was the low bidder at $114,250. Funding in the amount of $100,000 will eventually be reimbursed in the CDBG program, but we had to put this money in the capital budget so we could essentially front the money until the CDBG money comes at a later date. We're planning on doing this work in the whole month of July. We're going to close the pool and replace the liner. We're also going to be doing some other work on the balcony where there's a defect in the wall that abuts the pool. So that's going to be in July 2021. 3 other projects now. These are projects that we actually deleted, and this is based on comments from one of the residents at the public hearing. They had mentioned, why are we spending so much money on grants and studies. So, basically for this first one, which is economic development zoning study, it's in the general fund. We deleted $100,000 based on comments from the May 6th meeting. We met with the city controller, city manager, director of economic development, and myself. It was determined that the proposed work is not going to be initiated until after July 1st, 2022. So we're going to incorporate that in the 2022-23 capital budget. So we deleted that. The next one is economic development, EAF and EIS for zoning. Again, that's in the general fund. We deleted $265,000. This was also based on comments from the May 6th public hearing. Again, the city controller, city manager, director of economic development, and myself, we all met. We determined that there was $265,000 in existing capital budgets from a prior year that we could actually use for this project. So we were able to delete the $265,000. Last but not least is a parking study. This was also in the general fund. We deleted this. Similar to the one before, we actually are going to move this to the 22-23 capital budget because it was determined that we weren't going to do the work in this next year. So we were able to push that off. So Dave, next slide, please. So in summary, we're requesting 4.8 million in lieu of the 5.2 million in the general fund. And this is basically going to, again, lower the overall capital budget from 10.1 to 9.7 million. And that's pretty much it. Those are the changes. Thank you.
Got to learn to unmute before I start talking. Thanks, Joe. All right. Is there any questions from the council members?
I just have one. Commissioner, thank you very much for doing this, by the way. Saving money is always helpful. Commissioner, would you know of any of these funds, for example, the pool liner, if COVID did not happen, we probably would have done this sooner, I'm guessing. But were there impacts that COVID delayed projects or caused projects to be not started, or would you know that at all?
I mean, yeah, it had so many different impacts in so many different ways. I mean, even now to this day, I'll give you one example. I bid out, this office bid out a project for a hazard mitigation plan for the ice arena. The bid was approximately $950,000. We were intending to award it at the July 1st regularly scheduled meeting of the council, June 1st meeting, that is. And the contractor just called me, and he was contemplating pulling his bid because there's been such an escalation in cost since March when he bid the project. The steel prices have gone up, lumber prices have gone up through the roof. I mean, labor, everything has gone dramatically, has a dramatically increased. So it really has had an overreaching effect, probably, on many things, not just DPW projects.
Yeah, no, thank you, Commissioner, for saying that, because there's a lot of moving parts that happen in projects with this size. And I just want to also thank you for, dealing with all of these moving parts and being, very good at it. So I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the council? All right. Hearing none. Dave, I'm guessing Miss Donovan's back. So
Yes.
Her picture popped up.
Robin Donovan, go ahead.
Yes, I recall at Meet the Candidates, and I think it was in 2019, that parking was an important issue, especially for money making. Why is this being postponed until after July 1st, 2022? And could you tell me a little bit about the study? What does it entail? And what will the next steps be after you complete the study?
I think Patty's on the phone. This is near and dear to her heart, and definitely falls under her purview. I don't know if she's on now. Maybe she could explain a little more in detail about that parking study.
Also, John McNally is on the phone, so he can talk about what we're doing right now for parking.
Thank you. Yes.
Sure. I mean, so there's, if you could work on Patty as well, getting her on. What we are looking at right now and what we are anticipating an issue an RFP for in a relatively short order, potentially, is we're just looking at the interplay between a few different moving pieces, is doing parking meters for the central business district. And that would be, I believe, the revenue generator that Ms. Donovan is speaking about. What is being pushed back towards next year is a citywide comprehensive parking analysis. So, what works for the West End, what works for the Walks area, what works for, along Broadway are all very intricate pieces that need to be dealt with, not just separately, but, as a holistic whole. So those would not necessarily, they could be, but those would not necessarily be the main revenue generators. But we are moving forward with the central business district. But, and I think what Ms. Bourne could speak to is we're moving forward with the comprehensive plan update. And with the timeline that the comprehensive plan update is moving on, parking is obviously an integral component of that. So you want those two pieces to move in tandem, not separately, as you're looking at the big picture of where Long Beach goes moving forward.
Hi, it's Patty Bourne. Good evening. John did a great job. I would just add that last year, because of COVID, the state did not have their normally annual grant round. So we couldn't apply for state grants to help us with these kinds of things, comprehensive plan, and specifically a zoning study. A parking study. So this year, the funds are available again, and we're looking to apply if they are available for funds for a parking study as well as for the comprehensive plan in the zoning area. And if we succeed, that could help us next year. And that's another reason why we pushed off these projects until the next fiscal year, because if we are awarded grants, then that would help to minimize the cost to the city, because they may come in at a significant level and allow us to do the projects that we want to do at a much less expensive cost, and therefore even do more.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. All right, Dave, who's next?
Roy Lester.
Okay.
Hey, Roy.
Hi, John. The only listen, I'm glad you guys listened to us, and it's nice that you did cut some of those studies. I didn't see the sense of those, but the one thing I wish we wouldn't do is we have an estimated cost on well 19 of $4 million. Our original quote on that was 2.5 million. And then they came back and said, oh, no, we can't do it. But we have had no bids on it. We haven't put it out to bid or anything. And, you know, it just seems like we're giving the highest amount and putting aside the highest amount without a single bid. It just doesn't seem right to me. But you know what? Like, I'm not a well expert, and it just seems an awful lot of money to drill a well.
Yeah, basically what, you know, we've just retained H2M, who's going to be the design engineer on this project, and they just commenced the design effort. So when we were preparing the capital budget, I reached out to them and requested that they give me, you know, what they felt was the most up-to-date cost for the well. And you're correct, we did initially have 2.5 million, but you know, he basically gave me information that said it was going to be in the $4 million range because it's a 1,250 foot well into the Lloyd Aquifer. It's a very deep well. That was the rate, you know, that they based on comparable projects that they've done. We won't know, you know, remember, we're not, this money's being put in the capital budget, but until it's actually authorized and borrowed, the city's not paying interest on it, and we won't be doing that until we have a better idea of, so we bid the project actually, you know, I'll coordinate with the city controller. So we, no matter what happens, if once this is, hopefully this is approved, you know, we won't be authorizing and borrowing this probably for quite some time. I would say for at least 6 months.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Roy. And I guess another thing that's kind of probably important to point out, Joe, too, is that because we're authorizing, if the plan passes and 4 million is authorized, that doesn't mean you get to spend 4 million. That's just that's the placeholder.
Exactly.
You can only, the capital plan is only allowed to then borrow or bond for the actual cost.
Exactly. So we'll meet, you know, in another 6 months. I mean, the borrowing is totally different than the authorization. Correct.
Right. We're not giving you the okay to borrow the money. We're just approving a plan.
Right.
The actual funding comes later.
Right.
But John, the question is, when you look at the projects in the sewer fund, we have existed bonding funds. And so we don't need any new funds. But all that money was already borrowed and is sitting there, correct?
Correct. You are correct about that. And I think 3 of those projects you mentioned are actually being utilized to pay down debt service. And that's why we're only requesting $600,000 for one specific item, which is essentially work related to like emergency sewer repairs and things of that nature. Similar to what, you know, because we just experienced these problems on Park Avenue between Grand and New York and the intersection of Wendell and Walnut. That's really the only money that we requested this year in the capital budget. And you're correct, there is money that's existing. You know, Ina and I, controller and I, are going to make a conscious effort to go through those budget lines in the coming year to see which ones can be utilized to pay down debt service. Some of them are being used for that purpose now. If you look in the capital plan, there's a little asterisk next to where it says in the sewer fund in the column. Those are the ones that are being used to pay down debt service. I think there's 3 of them right now, but there are others we could certainly, especially with the consolidation of wastewater project. You know, that money, a lot of that could probably be used to pay down debt service. So I agree with you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks, Roy.
I had a question about that. Isn't that capital exercise something that M3 and Melvany would work on as well?
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that, Karen, because I met with them yesterday in the afternoon, and that was one of the things we talked about. I gave them a copy of the capital plan, and we spent a lot of time going through it. They had a lot of questions. I think they're gonna have a lot more. Yeah, I just had given it to them yesterday, and they were very interested, and they had a lot of questions about it. And I'm sure we're gonna have more dialogue about it on the impacts of the city.
That's really great to hear that you're working with them on this. I'm sure in many other ways as well. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. We have fresh eyes looking at things now, so we're finding stuff that from past practices now that we need to update. So it's good. It's a good thing. So, all right, who's next, Dave?
No, that was the last hand.
Okay, so let's move on to the next item.
Item 4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an inter-municipal cooperation agreement with the County of Nassau to receive funding for the purchase of an office trailer and related items.
That would be Rich.
Yep. Good evening, everyone. So I guess just directing your attention to some meetings past, there was some discussion about some need in the fire department over in City Hall. As you know, we have 3 volunteer contingents or companies assigned to City Hall. As you also know, the city court, which is a part of the state court system, basically leases the second floor. Historically, the 2 volunteer companies that were staged in the second floor were no longer allowed to be on the second level of City Hall. So we only have the 1 trailer outside of City Hall at this point. And we need a little bit more space for those other 2 companies. So if you recall, Denise Ford was kind enough to say that she would help us out with this. So thank you very much, Legislator Ford, on this. Essentially, we'll be laying out the money and they will reimburse us as per normal county procedure. We submit a voucher. We get payment back up to $35,400. We do have to procure this in accordance with our procurement policy, but otherwise, that's it. Thank you very much, Legislator Ford.
Is this a capital purchase or it doesn't matter? Well, it's still an asset on the books, right? But we're refunded for it?
Right.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions from the council members? All right. Dave, from the public?
None from the public.
Okay. This is a good story. We get stuff out of this. So let's move on to item 5.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing a modification to the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Long Beach and the Long Beach Civil Service Employees Association.
Okay. You doing that one, Rich?
Yes, back to back. Okay, so as you should know, or if no one does know, we have collective bargaining agreements with all of our employees, the Civil Service Employees Association being one of them. They are the bargaining unit for the largest pool of employees. So historically, this is, we had the obligation under our collective bargaining agreement to provide uniforms for employees listed in Appendix Q of the CBA. There's some enumerated positions, approximately about 100 to 130 employees named therein. So because we had to provide that service or provide those uniforms, we had to procure that through competitive bidding. The problem with that is it becomes pretty costly. So our last vendor started to be pretty cost prohibitive. In 2018, it cost us about $152,000. In 2019, it was $174,000. And by 2020, in light of COVID, we kind of hit ahead with, the add-ons and the services. There was a big contractual fallout. There was a proceeding commenced. They sued us. We countersued. We resolved it amicably. We parted ways. The problem with that also, though, is that because we ended up having that contractual dispute, we couldn't satisfy our obligations under the contract, and we were facing a grievance. So the CSEA and our team sat together and discussed it. and we came up with the uniform allowance. What that does is it takes it out of the procurement process. We give the employees an annual allowance. We put in certain controls. So just so you know, some of the controls will be that the department heads basically coordinate the purchase of all this, all their uniforms. They monitor compliance to see that the employees did in fact purchase uniforms. There are some, there's some teeth put into it so that that should an employee basically act in bad faith, not only do they not get the allowance for the following year, they potentially lose it forever, and they could face discipline, will likely face discipline. So at $650 per employee, with the number of employees that we currently have in that appendix, we're looking at about $84,500 projected. Add or subtract a few depending on what hires have happened in between our discussions, if any. And that's essentially it.
Okay, so we're looking probably at an overall savings then with this, right?
Yes, compared to 2019, 174,000 out of pocket, and it was climbing. Now we're projected at about 84,500.
Okay, so we're saving like $90,000 doing this ballpark. It sounds like. All right, and it sounds like there's controls in place, so everybody's not showing up. Shines and Nolan's T-shirts won't be the uniform of the day.
Right.
All right. Any questions from the council?
No, I'm really happy to see this, Rich. I think it's something good. One thing that, on a personal note, when you see people that are, in the middle of the winter working hard, it's cold, and, they could probably, need a better pair of boots or shoes or whatever. So I imagine this will all be wrapped together as a uniform, right?
Right. This serves to offset a large portion, if not cover most of it. Certain departments have their own dedicated budgets for safety gear, for DOT specified equipment. Mm-hmm. So this is meant to offset that, if not cover it, and kind of ease the burden overall.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right. So this is good. This is another example of finding a new way to do something and saving the taxpayers money in the process.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
So
thanks to the CSEA for coming to the table, by the way, and thank them.
Yeah. See, that's when you work together, that's just what we can get done. So, all right. Any other questions from the council? All right. Seeing none. What about from the public, Dave?
James Hodge. Go ahead, James.
Okay. Welcome back.
As a former member, and we'll see what God does, a member of the CSEA for 23 years and a former shop steward, I was always glad to be able to wear a uniform in 3 different departments: animal control, water, and recreation uniforms. It does something when the residents of the city of Long Beach see the proud men and women of the CSCA, with the president and our executive board always being able to represent city of Long Beach and CSCA on the back somewhere, and city of Long Beach on the front, or whatever, a team going and taking care of our whole city, all of our 35,000, and swelling in the summertime. So uniforms has always been important. And even prior to this agreement, of course, I know that John always had his team to make sure that, uniforms and different things were, and those things were in place, so whatever can help CSEA, I am always for it. And CSEA, the union, always even helped the hourlies also with giving out shirts and giving out different things. So again, I'm just excited that even though that deal didn't go through because of whatever increasing and going up through COVID and all of that, that a deal was met. And, so congratulations to the CSEA president and leadership and the city of Long Beach for being able to continue to make sure that the city workforce has these great uniforms in whichever department you represent. So thank you. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay. Thanks, James. All right. Who's next? I
John
see
Mo-
Mr. Mooney just popped up.
Yep, John Mooney. Go ahead, John.
Okay.
Are you there?
Yep, we're here.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to personally thank Rich Berrios, Donna Gaden, Ina, my executive team. This is an example of good faith and working together through COVID. And this is a positive thing for the membership. And I just wanted to tell everybody, like, if people look at savings and we're talking about the budget, this alone is going to save close to $500,000. And the CSEA has always been there for the city. I've been the president for 10 years now, and we're going to continue to help the city. So that's what we do, and I just want to thank everybody. And that's pretty much it. I know the vote was 173 to 15, so it was an overwhelming majority. And again, just want to thank the council, the manager, and everyone that was involved.
Great. Thanks so much, John. Like I said, just shows what we can do when we work together.
Yep, definitely.
All right. Anyone else, Dave?
That's all on this item.
Okay. Let's move on to item 6.
Item 6 is a resolution to schedule a special meeting of the City Council for Monday, May 24th, 2021, authorizing the adoption of the operating budget for fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2021, and ending June 30th, 2022, appropriating sums set forth therein and determining and fixing the real estate tax levy.
Okay. You going to do this one, Donna? Because
Sure.
we know Ina's temples will throb on this.
Sure. We've been in discussions with the state. The state we're working together. They had some questions that we wanted to answer from our report and some corrections to be made. And so with us working together, and actually we have developed a very good working relationship with the state comptroller's office. One of the recommendations was to adopt the budget at a later date while we work through them. And so we took their recommendation. So the budget will be adopted next Monday in a special meeting.
Okay. And it just, I guess it's worth noting that the reason was by the time the state got the review back to us, there's a requirement that we have to wait 10 days from the time they return their review to us. So that's what's causing us the 10 days wasn't done by tonight. So we have to wait a little longer.
And because of our working relationship with the state, we decided to go ahead with their recommendation.
Right.
You can actually pass it, and then you would be going against their recommendation.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from the council? It's pretty straightforward.
I just have one question. Do we know it's going to be Zoom, John, or we know it's going to be live, or we don't know?
Zoom. It will be Zoom.
Yeah. Okay. And any others? Seeing none. Dave, from the public?
No hands at this time.
Okay. Let's move on to item 7.
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept and execute a grant on behalf of the City of Long Beach from the New York State Department of State.
And this would be Patty.
Patty, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi again. This is what we call Park Avenue Phase 2. And the goals in this grant, as in many grants, are 4 points. When we seek infrastructure grants, we look for money that will help us to implement complete streets for the safe movement for pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists. We look for funds that also, if possible, allow us to do flood mitigation, since we're so aware of that since Superstorm Sandy. Third, we look for funds that can help us be flexible to do streetscape improvements, such as improving the roads, and Park Avenue certainly in the downtown could have the road improved, sidewalks, new lighting, signage, trash receptacles, bike racks, use of solar wherever possible to save money. And fourthly, in the downtown, we're certainly looking for funds that help us to succeed with economic revitalization to improve the downtown and encourage people to shop and dine. And these 2 grants, and we're talking tonight about Phase 2, Phase 1's contract was already approved, hit all 4 points. So the funds tonight are from the Department of State. The Phase 1 grant was for $500,000. This phase is for $775,000. And before you tonight. It did take us quite a while to get the actual contract for your consideration. And as I understand it from the state, last year, they had a lot of complex issues with COVID and were pulled in different directions. So there was a waiting period to get the contract. So the total DOS grants for this project on Park Avenue are $1.275 million. And New York State is paying for half the costs of making these critical improvements in our downtown. So we only have to pay half of the money. The boundaries are on Park Avenue from Long Beach Boulevard, approximately to Magnolia Boulevard, but it may go a little further. So they're two separate grants, but it will be executed as one project, which I'm sure Joe is happy about. And speaking of Joe, we've worked very closely with DPW over the years on these to get the funding. And his department, DPW, will do the RFP, which is the next step, to hire an engineering firm to design the improvements. And we will work closely with DPW to meet the Department of State grant requirements, which are extensive. And there will be public engagement to include, of course, business owners, our residents, to be involved in the process and take into consideration the needs of visitors. And we will continue to seek additional funding for the city.
Okay, you done?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. It was like a hard stop there. I wasn't sure if you were done. All right. So, all right. More good news, because when tying this in with the Edwards Boulevard project too, that's going on right now, the center of town, the down business district's getting a nice facelift. So, any questions from the council members? Okay, and we're paying for a lot of it with grants, which is even better. So, Dave,
I had a question.
Good.
Does the Public Safety Commission participate in this process at all?
Karen, that's a very good point. When we conceived of this, we didn't have an active Public Safety Commission. Of course, we do now, but I can certainly see them involved, our Planning Advisory Board and others as well. And of course, the staff related to that, the Police Commissioner, DPW, as I mentioned. I should have mentioned Public Safety, so thank you so much. Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, that was a great question, Karen. That's thank you for asking that.
Okay. And all right, Dave, who do we got from the public?
James Lynch.
Okay. Mr. Lynch. You're muted, Jamie. There you go. Just unmuted.
All right. Very good. Thank you. My question goes back to Patty. Does this include bike lanes on Park Avenue? And if it does, what side of Park Avenue?
Jamie, that's a very good question. It's a little complex, but I'll try to simplify it because you have a great memory. Originally, when we were talking about applying for these funds, we wanted to put actual protected bike lanes on Park Avenue. And Joe and I and John Mirando, through the process, had the opportunity to speak to several engineering firms with a lot of experience. And their estimates are to put a protected bike lane, which we would need for safety on Park Avenue. Our funds would not cover it. We get literally like a block done. And you don't want to put a bike lane in for a block. And then where do people go after that? That would be very, very unsafe. So unfortunately, these funds will not allow us to put in, because the street is not wide enough with 3 lanes of traffic, a parking lane. There is not room to put in a bike lane and keep the moving lanes wide enough. And you don't want to take out the parking lane. So we went through this in many different configurations. We look to the future, Jamie, that we can get a larger grant and be able to actually put a protected bike lane. We'll put signage up, but we can't unfortunately put a bike lane in with this limited amount of money.
And I would agree with you. The only other thing I would say, not being an engineer, but somebody that's lived here for 20 years, is to point out is if you decide to change these lanes and shift them, you're going to have to repave the entire Park Avenue area because these lanes have grooves built into them. And by moving traffic over, will turn into a lumpy road. and cause bigger problems. So I hope that the engineering, when they go forward, look into this, because that would be unsafe. So I'm kind of happy they're not putting the bike lanes in until they really review the whole thing. But thank you.
Thank you.
But on the flip side, Jamie, I'm really interested about the bicycles on the sidewalks in the center of town, and that we have signs that say you're not allowed to do that. So I don't know if there's a fine for doing that. I don't, when I ride my bike down Park Avenue, I'm pretty, you won't miss me, but you'll miss a kid, if they're riding on Park Avenue or in the sidewalk. So that's why I was hoping, glad to hear that the Public Safety Commission and the other commissions will be involved in this project.
No, and I would, am I still unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. I would agree with you, Karen, but all we have to do is look to different areas. I'll point to Alexandria, Virginia, Old Town, how they do things, and the biking is off the main road, and you drive up to the main road. Pretty much what Walnut would be to us. Not everything has to encompass Main Street, but it can be figured out. So we have a little more time to figure it out. I just traffic and bicycle lanes in Long Beach just don't work with the speed that people travel in. But it can be looked at now that we have time.
Okay. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else, Dave?
Yes. Next is Roy Lester.
Okay.
Okay. When I look at this project, it seems like it's limited to Park Avenue. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if we were looking at bike lanes on Walnut, we could not use this money, correct?
No.
Okay. And the only thing about bikes on this is bike racks, correct?
Well, we will include bike racks and work with the public and the residents and the businesses where they'll be appropriate. And we'll put signage up to clarify about bike safety. And as Karen said, some new innovative signs about don't bike on the sidewalks and be careful biking on Park Avenue, that there are alternatives, as has been suggested tonight, biking on Walnut and other streets as well, which may be safer for bikes.
I know years ago I worked with Len Torres in trying to get bike lanes into the city. And we at one point had a company, I think it was Deco Bike, that was going to pay for all the bike lanes. And that really didn't go anywhere. But as far as Karen said about the biking on the sidewalk, it is against the law. There are fines. And I know I had to fight a case for some kid. And I fought it on the safety issue. And the idea that you would force a kid onto Park Avenue rather than some of the wide sidewalks we had. This happened to be right in front of Hollywood that they got the ticket. And I'm wondering if we could look at some point to dividing the sidewalk. Maybe we would have to take some tables away from restaurants and stuff. But if somebody has a bike and they want to go somewhere, you have a bike rack, but you can't get there unless you're walking your whole bike and, you're walking the whole block, and people aren't riding bikes so they can walk them. So I'm wondering, hopefully these are things that can be looked at. And if we could get, let's say, Walnut or something as a true bike lane, and we've measured all of the streets and they're definitely wide enough, then we could have something where somebody could come up to Park Avenue and then be able to use the stores, and it would be great for the businesses and stuff. All right, thanks.
Right. Well, we can, when we get to hire an engineering firm, one of the characteristics should be that they have experience with bike lanes in an area similar to Long Beach, and we can look at best practices from other places to see how we can resolve some of these issues.
And we have some experts in Long Beach that know bike lanes better than most experts. I do have one question. What's a permeable pavement? Is that something where the water goes through?
Yes, rather than something like a hard surface where the water would run off it. So you want the rain to go in through the permeable pavement, which could be asphalt. They make it in concrete. Traditionally, we know about like wood chips or pebbles or grass. That's all permeable. And they make it also, as I said, in concrete and in asphalt. It's not cheap, but they do make it. So we'll look into that.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Dave, anyone else?
Yes, William Depper.
Okay.
Yes, hi. Addressing the bike lanes, and I mean, I hope they're going to think it out correctly, especially with the handicapped sidewalks and everything, because you're going to have bikers hitting people with the rollators and wheelchairs, and they're not even lined up correctly. You go down one, then you have to go into the street to go up on another one. And I'm glad Miss McGinnis addressed it today, because I almost got hit by a bicycle on the sidewalk, because they don't even alert you that they're behind you. They don't even go beep, beep if they don't have a horn. So, I mean, you have to take all that into consideration, as well as how the lights change and whether these bicyclists are even going to stop at the lights and, obey the traffic signs. That's basically it.
Okay, thanks. That's good input for Patty to have. So when they get to the design part, they can take all that into account. Anyone else, Dave?
That was all.
Okay, let's move on to the next item.
Item 8 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of a local law amending the charter of the city of Long Beach. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held June 1st at 7 p.m. I believe we have an amendment on this item.
Yes, there was an update posted to Mike's earlier point about our charter being out of date. There was a lot of masculine references in it, so they made some additional updates to make it more gender neutral. So so I'll make a motion to replace the updates with those posted on the website.
Do I have a second?
I will.
I'm sorry.
Liz seconded.
Oh, sorry. Okay, voting. Councilmember Delury.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay. Item 9 is a resolution authorizing publication of a notice of public hearing of an application to waive off-street parking requirements for premise 154 East Park Avenue, street floor for a holistic alternative product store. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held June 1st at 7 p.m. Also, the note at the bottom of the agenda is that the city clerk shall present to city council the letter of review performed by the office of the state controller within 10 days of a filing of said report. That letter has been sent to all council members. On to the voting. Item 1 is a local law amending Subpart C of related acts related to the charter of the city of Long Beach regarding a local law to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law Section 3C. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting. Councilmember Delury.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 2 is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding water, and water distribution. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting. Councilmember Delury.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 3 is a resolution authorizing the adoption of the capital improvement program for 5 years from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2026 inclusive. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item as amended?
I will.
I will.
I'm sorry, who got that one?
Karen and Mike.
Okay. Voting. Councilmember Delury.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes, and thank you to Commissioner Fabrizio and to Senator Kaminsky and working together to make this happen for our residents.
Vice President McGinnis.
I just want to thank Commissioner Fabrizio on his first official capital budget plan. It was excellent, job well done. I also want to thank Controller Ina Resnick for all her work in conjunction with Joe. This is a great example of teamwork and professionalism. So I really appreciate it. With that, I vote yes.
President Pendo.
Yep, a lot of hard work went into this, and I say yes, and thank you for all that work.
Item 4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into into an intermunicipal cooperation agreement with the County of Nassau to receive funding for the purchase of an office trailer and related items. Who will introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delury,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes, and again, I'd like to thank Denise Ford for her continued support of the city of Long Beach.
Vice President McGinnis.
I'd also like to thank Legislator Ford. She saw a need and she went ahead and put Long Beach first. So I vote yes.
President Pendo.
Yep, another good example of what we do when we work together. So yes.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing a modification to the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Long Beach and the Long Beach Civil Service Employees Association. Who will introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delury,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes, and again, I just want to thank you. This meeting has been full of collaboration and cooperation. So thank you to Mr. Mooney and to all the parties that made this happen. Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
I'll just say ditto. Yes.
President Bendo.
And another big savings for the taxpayers. Yes.
Item 6 is a resolution to schedule a special meeting of the City Council for Monday, May 24th, 2021, authorizing the adoption of the operating budget for fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2021, and ending June 30th, 2022, appropriating sums set forth therein, and determining and fixing the real estate tax levy. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delury,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept and execute a grant on behalf of the City of Long Beach from the New York State Department of State. Who introduced and move the adoption of this item?
Will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delury,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yeah, and thanks to Patty and her staff for all their hard work on this to get this money.
Item 8 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of a local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach. Who introduced and move the adoption of this item as amended?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delury,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
And finally, item 9 is a resolution authorizing publication of a notice of public hearing of an application to waive off-street parking requirements for premise 154 East Park Avenue, street floor for a holistic alternative products store. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delury,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
We'll make a motion to close the meeting.
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delury,
You muted, Mike.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
And it's bad enough he hides every time that question comes up. Yes.
Okay.
All right. So on to good and welfare. I think
Yeah, folks, if you want to speak at Good and Welfare, please use the raise your hand function, and we'll call you in the order that it pops up on the screen. You get 3 minutes.
Okay. So who's first?
Okay, our first person here is Beck Gaithman Landini.
Hi, that's me.
Okay, go right ahead.
Hi. So I wanted to kind of bring up, I have been working with the Chamber of Commerce on beach yoga this summer. In the past, for the most part, I'm a new business owner. I took over the yoga studio that's right across from Stop and Shop right before the pandemic started. And before I took over, for the most part, beach yoga usually happened before and after beach hours. And for the most part, the city kind of allowed that to happen. This year, I wanted to kind of go through the right channels and to try to get a permit for our insurance and also for the safety of our members. And through working with the Chamber of Commerce, it's been very difficult to figure out if there is a way to do that. And so I wanted to bring that to you guys and see if there is a way that we can create that. Especially for us, our beach yoga classes are donation based, and we use those donations to fund scholarships for our students. So I just wanted to bring that up and ask if there was a way for that to be created.
This is Donna Gaydon. If you would reach out to Joe Brand, the commissioner of the Parks and Recs, and talk to him about it, and then we could see what we can do.
Yes, we have done that.
Okay.
And the answer we got was that we would have to get a permit for each individual class, which, as you can imagine, is very cost prohibitive. So what we've been working with the Chamber of Commerce is to make one pass that would be for a whole season for a business, so that we could expedite that.
Well, give me a call in my office tomorrow if you can.
Okay. Donna, I will do that. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Look forward to talking to you.
All right, thanks. And who's next, Dave?
Oh, wait.
Oh, I see a couple of people
Yeah,
popped
wait,
up. So which order are we going in?
William Depper was next. Mr. Heller, hold on.
Okay. Hold on, Kevin. Mr. Depot was first.
Okay, yeah. The Beach Pass Trail, I live directly across the street. It had a lot of traffic flow. I took a couple of pictures. I sent them to Mr. Mandel, and you could see there's no hours posted, and so many people have been stopping there. Didn't you even think that the first couple of weeks, at least up until Memorial Day, to sell the beach passes at both locations because of the amount of people that are coming to buy the passes? And also getting back to those work studies, a lot of those work studies I think should have stayed in, especially the parking and the EIS, because it could take away from possible grants that come in to even fix and address some of the problems on those. And I saw where $100,000 was deleted, but was that the total amount that you were going to spend for that project? Or did you just take $100,000 and move it to somewhere else? Because we had to change a lot of the core services and a lot of other services on, at the planning council. So, that's health related. This is something totally different, but it still comes down to, like I said, it could bring a lot of funding into Long Beach. And also, I go to the beach over by National as well as by me, that one there, because it has the shower and the bathroom a lot closer. The bathroom there, it's constantly slippery. I see people falling there. Some people I don't even think say anything. They just get up, walk back onto the beach and stuff. And this empty lot across that you're going to be putting parking here, the dirt that's coming through my front, I can't even open up my front windows because with the wind here down by the beach and the sand and now dirt coming into the windows and onto the glass, it's horrible. But such is life, living in Long Beach, but at least I'm here to complain.
If I could just quickly,
Yeah.
Mr. Depper, thank you. I just checked my email. I don't know to what email address or when you sent the photos.
On Messenger. On Facebook.
Oh, on Facebook.
Yeah, Messenger.
And when was that? Just so I know. Was that recently?
Like when the meeting started.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll take a look. I'll forward it to everybody else. I don't check Facebook during the meeting, but I'll take a look.
Thank you. But I mean, you need eyes to bring things to your attention so that you can address the matters. So I hope other people will give
Absolutely.
their
Thank you.
input too. You're welcome.
Mr. Depper, this is Donna speaking. I will talk to Commissioner Brand, and we will take a look about posting hours. And I also will talk to beach maintenance about the bathrooms, slippery bathrooms.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks for letting us know.
You're welcome.
All right. And I guess now Kevin is up.
Go ahead, Mr. Heller.
You're still muted, Kevin. There you go.
Yeah, well, that was Dave's fault, not mine.
Oh, okay.
Just want to come back to the general bike issue, but this time related to the boardwalk. I've been up there a number of times. The weather's been really nice. A lot of people are working at home, so it's crowded, and I don't see the bike lane signs as of yet. So if we could get them out there sooner than later, that would be great. And then also, if Commissioner Walsh is still on, I know he's relatively new to Long Beach. Hopefully, someone's briefed him that when the specials do come on, an important job that they have is to, while they're walking the boardwalk, remind people that might be walking in the bike lane that it is in fact a bike lane, because it's not always so obvious to the out-of-towners. That's all I have.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Heller. This is Donna speaking. I will check on the status of the bike lane signs.
Great, thank you.
Okay. And who's next, Dave?
Next is
Mr. Hodge.
James Hodge.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to start off by saying that, sometimes when you go in this public forum, you hear different things. So I'll start off by saying last city council meeting that spoke about some things referring to my employment with the city of Long Beach, which I'm continuously looking forward to have that opportunity back. I had 23 years. I will say again, I did a diligent job. I believe so. And not just because I believe so many people have said that. I did everything that my supervisors told me to do. And as I go back and look at March of 2020, when I sat in the office with the new city manager and also yourself, President Bendo, I sat in the office about maybe 2 or 3 times and we talked about doing this food distribution. I did what I was supposed to do along with the many others that volunteered, helped out, and employed to do the food distribution. When I was switched to another department, I did whatever, again, the department supervisors told me or instructed me to do. I think that Donna is new. And so I will say for even the city council members that know what I've done in my lifetime of giving back to the city of Long Beach and giving back to and representing the city of Long Beach, to not hear from any of the city council members, feeding over 300 people with others a day and giving in the midst of me having an underlying issue and risking my life from what my cardiologist said, being tested in 2019, maybe for cancer, but finding out that I have an autoimmune disease. But yet I still did what I had to do for the city. One of the first people to wear masks, if Donna can remember our conversation about that. But I say to Donna, I say to you that I still must pray for you each and every day, because that's the Christian that I am. Was I wrong? Yes, I was. Did I show up at work and show up and do what I was supposed to do? Yes, I did. If anybody say different, then that's their opinion. But I must say that, again, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I did what I was supposed to do, and I believe that the city has an opportunity to do what is right. Again, 23 years. It's supposed to be 24 now. I want the city to do what is right. I am asking in this form, everything has been documented, recorded, taped, meetings, emails, all of these different things. I've done everything that I was supposed to do.
James, this is Donna. You know what? I thank you for praying for me. I pray for you. I pray for this city every single day. We don't discuss personnel matters. I'm, you know, you're reaching out and you're talking about, and nobody has ever taken away from what all the things that you have done for the community. Nobody has ever said that you have not stepped up and helped the community when the community is in need, as many others have, and nobody has said anything different from you. But as far as a personnel matter, if you would like to give Mr. Mooney, your union rep, a call that when you were working here, I'm sure he would be glad to talk to you. Also, the union attorney would be glad to talk to you. And where there's any differences, you can work those out between you and the union, and then they will bring it to the city and say what the next steps are. So I applaud you once again. I pray for you every day, and I pray for the city every day. So thank you very much.
All right, I think I still have about 20 seconds. So I will say this again, I will continue to pray for this city, and I'll continue to pray for those in leadership. That's the Christian that I am, and that's what my mother and father taught me as they were ministers and pastors. And so again, I ask this city to do what is right, because again, I did everything I was supposed to do, and I was wrongfully fired. I have 23 years in, and I have seniority. And again, maybe because of who knows who or whatever the case may be, but again, I have 23 years. I have more seniority than half of the city, probably half of the city's workforce.
James,
So
that's your time.
I'm sorry that I got fired. But again, I will continue to pray for you. All of you have a great night. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. God bless.
All right. Thank you, James. All right. Then it looks like Mr. Lynch is up.
Yep, James Lynch.
Okay.
Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh, you just muted yourself, Jamie.
How about now? Good?
There you go. Now you go.
All right. This is for Donna. Just a quick fallback to the young lady that spoke on the beach yoga classes.
Yes.
One of our board members at the chamber, Johanna Matheson, has pulled up a ordinance that Florida uses on one of their local beaches, a busy beach, and I think that would be great if the city could take a look at it. We've given it to some of the yoga sports facilities so that they could mark it up with some of their ideas. And maybe we could bring that up at a liaison meeting, because it's important that we continue to try not only stand up the restaurants, but stand up these small businesses on Beach and Park Avenue. And if it allows them to operate on the beach in the off hours, I think that would be great to add to their existence. So maybe we can take a look at that all together.
James, this is Liz. If you could just forward that to the liaison people, myself, as I'm part of that.
Yes.
Share with everyone. That would be appreciated.
Will do. My second question before I run out, is Commissioner Walsh still on the call?
Yes.
Good evening, Commissioner. Just a quick question on the capital improvement for the police department for this upcoming year. They identified about $270,000 or $260,000 on 3 police vehicles on a state grant. Could you identify what kind of vehicles those are?
Yeah, it's not a state grant. That's state bid. That means the pricing of the vehicles is already been bid as lowest bid by New York State. So it's actually more than 3 vehicles, that dollar amount. It's one unmarked vehicle fully equipped with the police package. It's 2 marked patrol vehicles, and we have monies in there for ATV type vehicles as well. So a Ranger and probably another 2 Rangers and probably an ATV.
Oh, okay. So it's 5 vehicles then.
Right. I mean, plus or minus, it's all written into the capital project. We're going to look at the needs as the season goes on this year, and what looks like it's not going to make it to next year. we will purchase ATVs.
Understood then. All right. So then I won't ask any further. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Jamie. Who's next, Dave?
Oh, wait, next is Robin Donovan.
Okay. And welcome back.
Hello. In the May 6th report by Tom DiNapoli, our state comptroller, one of the key findings said that the overtime salaries were budgeted at $2.3 million. However, costs were averaging $2.9 million for the last 5 years, a cost of $3 million. Under key recommendations, and my question, how will you control overtime costs without cutting services moving forward?
Ina, you want to answer that?
Okay. Hi, good evening. How are you? We had prepared this budget with carefully working with each departmental manager on incorporating their requests for the overtime into this budget. What was different this year in the process was that all the proposed budget, compiled budgets, were shared with the departmental managers before they were put together into the overall document. So managers saw what it's in overtime budgets for their departments and had agreed that those numbers were appropriate. And we usually hold the departments responsible for the spending in their areas. So that gave us comfort level to present the overtime budgets the way that they're presented in the proposed budget posted online. So overtime is really, in general, right? Overtime fluctuates from year to year. If you had a very perfect organization with a very perfect set of circumstances, you wouldn't have to have any overtime. And it really occurs only when emergencies occur, the unpredictable ones, right? So we obviously are not an absolutely perfect organization, and we don't have an absolutely perfect set of circumstances. Hence, we budget for overtime. But we want to assure you that we also understand the predictability of life in general, right? So if you have extra snowstorms or a lot of snowstorms in any given winter, you will incur more overtime than let's say in the last couple of winters. So we have contingency budgets, and we draw them as we consider necessary. And I hope that I answered your question.
Okay, and I see Ron wants to jump in.
Sure. Just real quickly, to give a little bit more of a logistical or operational answer to that. In the police department, when I first took over, we have squads. So people work in different areas, and some of the squads had members that either didn't have enough members in it to cover all of the postcards, and or people were out on line of duty and things like that. So what you do is you go through and you evaluate where all your personnel is. We adjusted our personnel, moving heavier squads, people with more bodies in it. We took some people from there, put them into the squads that needed bodies, and that adjustment there should be somewhere in the area of $200,000 to $300,000 of savings between January and July. So just paying attention to your personnel, paying attention to the actions that happen when people get injured and stuff like that. It's the same for any department. I'm not unique in that regard. Everybody in the city and all of the other commissioners and heads of the departments look to see that they can balance their workforce so that we can not reduce services and also reduce costs. So that's just a logistical an actual operational way of looking at it.
Is this a new way of looking at it, Commissioner Walsh?
I would say that that's probably something that has been done over the years. Some managers have been more fastidious in looking at that than others, which is probably why I'm sitting here.
So do you know where most of this overtime occurred? Was it in the police department?
I know exactly where the overtime occurred in the police department. It was filling postcards, what was called short roll call or short manpower. So we didn't have enough bodies in particular squads. So we moved personnel around, and there's some adjustments that need to be made, and there's provisions in the collective bargaining agreements that can restrict our abilities, which is one of the reasons why we want to renegotiate some of these things in the collective bargaining units, because they're so restrictive from years ago that in order to move somebody from a night tour to a day tour, there's all sorts of different rules. You can't just move somebody. So these are some of the reasons why there's been an aggressive push on my part to try to renegotiate parts of the contract so that we can save the taxpayers money and not waste money by having people working when we can be much more efficient and productive with them by just moving them into another time frame.
Well, I like what I hear from you, and I thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. I'm trying very hard.
President Bendo, can I just add, I think Ms. Resnick and Donna, I know that COVID probably had caused some people to either have a test, stay out of work to be safe during this past year. And that spot had to be covered out of an abundance of caution and safety. Would that be somewhat accurate, Donna or Ina?
Yes, there were the state comptroller's report about the overtime. There were a few different departments, one being maintenance because of the snowstorms. We had overtime. We even talked about that in particular about the snowstorms, but the streets and everything were clean. So in the fire department, they were short staffed. But yes, when someone had COVID during the time, they had to stay out. And if they were around other people, they also had to stay out for a certain amount of days. So we had an unusual overtime, but we're hoping that the measures we're putting in place this year will help.
Donna, do you think that report covered the year we had COVID?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Robin.
Robin,
And
you're talking about the most current report.
she just dropped off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I'm assuming she means the most current one. So, all right. I see Eileen Hessian popped up. So I'm assuming she's next.
Yes, Eileen, go ahead.
Yes, hi. I have a question that I think is probably for Donna. I know we have a transparency portal for the city, and I'm wondering if all of those businesses on the boardwalk, the ice cream and the hamburgers and so forth, if the information about them can be put up on the transparency portal. I'm wondering about square feet, cost per square foot, who's keeping up with their payments and so forth.
Yes, I did get that request earlier. The staff is working on it. So the leases, all concessionaires information will be put up in the transparency portal along with their leases.
Terrific.
And where they are.
Very good. Thank you.
Just give me to the end of the week.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Eileen. And who's next, Dave?
John Mooney.
All right. Welcome back, Mr. Mooney.
John.
You hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I just wanted to address, some inaccurate and false statements said at the last council meeting and this council meeting by a former member. Since the layoffs last budget, I've worked with the city manager to bring back laid off members when vacancies exist. So if somebody retires, somebody leaves, or, we've been offering it to the people on the list. We've gone down the list. Some people have retired. Some people refused multiple offers. Some have moved on to new jobs, and some have accepted jobs. Those are the facts. I don't deal in alternative facts or ask for fictional positions that don't exist in the budget or aren't on the table. We're staying within the budget and working down that list. I want to personally thank the city manager for working on it with us and getting the two most recent positions filled, one in sanitation and one that's actually on the errata sheet for recreation. We're hoping to hopefully resolve this class action going forward, and we're hoping to close it out with the manager and corp counsel shortly. And I just want to let them know I appreciate it, and we've been working on this for the last 12 months, and we're coming to an end soon. So I just wanted to thank them and clear up any inconsistencies that people had. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. And who's next, Dave?
Next is Roy Lester.
Okay.
Hello. A couple of questions. We're voting next time on the public hearing of changing the charter on a bunch of stuff. That's item number 8. Public hearing is next time. But in item number 8, they're talking about the Board of Ethics shall have the following additional powers. We haven't had a Board of Ethics for 9 years now. And it's the only board that was not set up this time. So, we're kind of voting on something without a board. So if something could be done about it, it would be great. That's one thing. The other thing is John, you said that a lot of people, when they run out of time and stuff, they're sending you guys emails and asking questions and you're answering them. Now, when COVID first started, we all had to send our questions in, and you did a great job. You answered literally, dozens and dozens of questions, and you spelled them out and you gave the answers. It took a couple of weeks, sometimes more than a couple, but we did get the answers. But now that's not being done. And like you say, you're getting all these questions, and it'd really be great if the public could know what other people are asking and what the answers are. You think we could do that again?
I guess the emails come in a little bit of a different format now. Now it's more just somebody, shooting it. It's before that was the formal process before we were able to switch over to this system. But I guess we could look at that. We could look at that. Yeah, I can't give you an answer right now, but
but you basically said they're doing this because we have such a limited amount of time. So it is something that everybody's interested in. So if you could just put it in, let us know.
Well, we have to look at
copy.
We have to. We got to look at logistically what it would take, especially if you're going to sort through every single email. Like I said, we could talk with Donna about it because. Again, if it's going to add cost, that's
John.
That's
you could forward them to me, and I could put them on a website, no cost.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thanks. All right. Anyone else, Dave?
Yes, Judy Vining.
Okay.
Go ahead, Judy. Unmute.
Hi. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Two things. I'm going to try to be schizophrenic in talking to you in my 3 minutes tonight. One is going to be as director of LongBeachCOA, and again, we always see our role as giving you the information we have, and you do with it what you will. We're a resource. So going back to last weekend, the off-street parking variance, I think it was for the tipsy, I don't remember the name. I don't remember the last name. It wasn't, yes, that was exactly what you were voting on, a variance. But that is your only tool. And that's kind of what we want to explain. In other words, New York is a preemptive state. The state liquor authority has total control over everything alcohol, by the way, except an ice cream store because it's not a drink. However, your tool in any of this as a city council is through your zoning or your off-street parking variances or whatever you have. That's all you got, whether it's for an alcohol-related store or what's upcoming is marijuana. and there are no regulations yet. So I was on a legal call today, and I'm just going to give you what I got because I certainly didn't know it before today, is that part of the New York State law that passed on May 31st is specific to New York State. The product has to be sold or consumed on premises in New York State alone, or grown in New York State. So that means, since there are zero regulations that the Cannabis Control Board has put forth yet, any cannabis being smoked, vaped, dabbed, whatever, in any part of New York State is imported from another state and therefore illegal. I'm not saying you're going to enforce that. I'm not saying it's worth the enforcement for $25. I'm just stating the facts. Switching over to my schizophrenia, and as Judy Vining, a resident of Long Beach and on East Broadway, we had talked for multiple years about maybe a pilot project of having the north side or the south, it doesn't really matter to me, of Broadway from Long Beach Road to Maple Boulevard as a pilot project for residents only, because that's kind of an area that doesn't get looked at and is certainly a problem for residents on the weekends. That's it.
Judy, this is Liz. Can you just repeat that last part?
Yeah, okay, you said a pilot project. A pilot project
No,
for
I'm
what?
saying is we've been asking for, different residents have been asking for parking. In
Oh,
terms
for
of
parking. Okay, you didn't say parking. I was just
Okay,
trying
I'm
to figure
sorry.
out what you were referring. Okay.
So we're
okay.
talking about parking. Let's take the north side of Broadway, having that strip being residents only, seeing if it works to ease the residents' congestion in certain parts of the East End, which exists because of the apartment buildings and because of, as Mr. Doppler said, because of where the concession stands are is where a lot of the out-of-towners go because they can eat and shower and use a bathroom all at the same time.
Judy, that's your time.
Okay.
Okay. But thanks, Judy. But yeah, interesting idea. And I'm sure our police commissioner could talk to our traffic folks and see if there's any there.
I'm
So
sorry. Judy,
she dropped off, Liz.
oh, okay.
Okay. Anyone else?
That's all.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, folks. And I guess we'll see you on the 24th for the budget vote.
At 6 p.m., folks.
At 6 p.m.
So it's 9:34.
I got 30. Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm just putting the time in. That's all.
Okay.
Good night, folks.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thanks for
Good
joining.
night. God.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mike.
Good night. Good night, Dave. Good night. Good night,
Good
John.
night.
Liz.
Good night, John Boy.
Yeah.